Where did this whole okay? So let's start for people who don't understand or don't know what happened. Jeff, what did we discuss primarily about Chris? I think it was two
Uh,
shows ago, actually, right?
yeah, it was a few shows ago, and I think you were with someone, and you two made a statement. I wasn't aware about the statement, so I couldn't comment on its truth. But it was about Chris being potentially a FBI agent or a kind of an agent, provocateur agent of some sort, and uh, and I think that our chat then came to us and said, "No, no, Jeff, you guys are defaming him, and so let's hear it from the man himself," because I didn't know at all about the story, so I couldn't deny or affirm it. So, Chris, are there accusations that you are a government agent?
Well, I sure wish I did. I'd probably spend a whole lot less time in jail if that were the case. Let me rewind a little bit and explain to you how I come into contact with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So, you guys might have heard about something that happened in Charlottesville last August. There was this minor skirmish that occurred that was political in nature called Unite the Right. And we went there to have a permitted demonstration in full cooperation with law enforcement. But a bunch of communists thought it'd be a swell idea to start a riot and shut down our permitted demonstration. And so when we get there, shockingly enough, Antifa was, the defining characteristic of Antifa is that they use violence against their political opponents. They use violence against us. And I was compelled to defend myself against a bunch of communist rioters on the evening of August 11th at University of Virginia. And stemming from this, I was accused of felony malicious release of tear gas and malicious injury by caustic agent or explosive. And I was facing 60 years in prison for 3 different Class 3 felonies. And so I was held without bail for 107 days. We had a preliminary hearing, and 2 of those 3 charges were dropped because there's just no evidence to support them. In fact, there's a great deal of evidence to the contrary. And it turns out that the people who accuse me are lying and have perjured themselves in court and are probably going to end up on the business end of an indictment themselves before this thing is over. So after the 2 of the 3 charges are dropped, I make bail and I get out and I get back to doing the show. I get indicted on a second count. So right now I have 2 counts of malicious release of tear gas pending against me, and I face 40 years in prison. I'm awaiting trial in Charlottesville. And so as this is going on, there's a lot here. So give me a second.
It's very interesting. Right. I didn't know all of that.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's like I'm stuck in Virginia on house arrest right now. I'm a New Hampshire resident, and I'm stuck down here, and I'm awaiting trial. And the fact of the matter is, like, the whole narrative that has been pitched about Unite the Right is a complete lie. It's not. We did not come down here. They're treating this thing like the Nazis came to Charlottesville to terrorize vulnerable demographics, and it's absolutely not what occurred. And so, I find out that I can't disclose how, but I find out that the FBI is investigating our enemies. All right. And I become very interested in that because I have information about them. And I was a crime victim on August 12th. I was pepper sprayed on my way into the park. And there's a lot of information that has come to light about the leftists who attack us. And so I had every intention of bringing this information to the authorities so that they could go and arrest the people who are responsible for all of this. At some point, there's a problem. There's some conflict on the alt-right you guys might have heard of with the Traditionalist Workers' Party. And Weev is attacking Matt Parrott for talking to law enforcement. And I have a private conversation with Weev, and I say, yeah, I talked to the cops too. We were crime victims, and it's probably a pretty good idea if the only people complaining are the communists, then let's not be surprised if the government treats us like a bunch of criminals. And so I say, yeah, I'm talking to the cops too. I'm about to talk to the feds. And so Weev decides to publish that conversation, that private discussion. He publishes that on the TRS 50 forum and says, I'm a Fed. Well, I'm going to talk to the FBI. That doesn't mean I'm an employee of the federal government. It doesn't mean that I'm, an agent provocateur. It means I'm a crime victim who's going to report a crime to the proper authorities. And so when that happens and everybody's going crazy, I'm never been known for subtlety. So what I just did was I published an article on ChristopherCantwell.com titled "I Am a Federal Informant," and I explain exactly what it is that I'm planning on doing. And of course, people have fucking short attention spans because they're stupid, and they don't bother to read the blog post. And all they see is Cantwell's a federal informant. He's a snitch. He's ratting out the alt-right. But the thing is that, like, I'm not aware of any criminal activity going on in the alt-right. We're not drug dealers. We're not terrorists. We're political activists who, like, applied for a permit and got our civil rights violated. And so I did indeed go to meet with the FBI, and I did indeed provide the FBI with a great deal of information. And all of that information is exonerating to me and my associates and incriminating to my enemies. And I think it went very well.
So you believe that people who are your enemies, I suppose on the left, framed you for releasing tear gas? Is that what happened?
Yeah. Well, let me be clear. I did release tear gas, right? So here's let me rewind a little bit. So the morning of August 11th. So Unite the Right, the main event was scheduled to take place on August 12th. Okay, we're going to go have this demonstration at Lee Park to protest the removal of a monument. On August 11th, I schedule a meetup for Radical Agenda listeners before the event so that we can all get to know each other, because most of us have never met. And I published the information about this behind the paywall at ChristopherCantwell.com, and I don't disclose the information publicly. I disabled new signups on the paywall before I published it so that somebody couldn't just, like, find out about the event and pay to find out, right? We meet at the Walmart parking lot in Charlottesville, and we are confronted nonetheless by a bunch of Antifa goons who are set on assaulting us. Now, I carry a Glock 19 in the small of my back when I'm not on trial for felonies. And when they came up, I had it like tucked. The gun was underneath my shirt, but I tucked my shirt in behind the gun so it was visible. And I turned around and I said, "Don't come any closer and don't make any sudden moves." And then these guys thought better about assaulting us, and they decided to leave. And when they left, they called in a bunch of 911 calls saying that we pulled a gun on them and, like, threatened to kill them and all this shit. Well, I was wearing a body camera, and so when the cops came and they surrounded us with ARs and shotguns and shit, I go and I talk to the police and I point to my body camera. I'm like, "You could take this thing off my shirt right now and go see everything that happened here." Nothing like that occurred. They did not find their complainant, and so they didn't bother to take my camera, and they left. That was the first crime that was committed at Unite the Right, was a false report on me and my associates claiming that we threatened to kill them. That didn't happen. I have proof of it. I gave that proof to the FBI. Okay. When that happened, one of my accusers, Emily Gorsensky, a transgender woman, is in the parking lot when this occurs and is taking pictures of me and posting those pictures to itsgoingdown.org, which, if you don't know, is a violent Antifa website. And so we all disperse from this thing. I go have my little interview with Vice News or whatever, and we go on about our day. We have a planning meeting with the alt-right ahead of the UVA torch march. And all right, I'm going to skip the details of that planning meeting. That's not the most relevant detail here. Okay. But suffice to say, the entire point of this thing was, like, to avoid violence. Jason Kessler informs us that itsgoingdown.org published the details of this torch march that we were planning on doing the evening of August 11th. And I say to Jason, that part we didn't have a permit for. And I say, "Are we coordinating with law enforcement on that? Because these guys already tried to frame me for a crime once today. These people are dangerous. Do the cops know?" And he says, "No." And I tell Jason Kessler, I say, "I will not participate in this thing unless the cops are involved, because these people are dangerous." And Jason agrees with me, and they call Lieutenant Tabler of the UVA police, and the police say that they're going to keep us separated from our enemies. So we go there, we go do the torch march thing, and shockingly enough, there are no police present. And as we approach the thing, I'm like, "You got to be kidding me. There's a bunch of Antifas surrounding this statue." And as we go down there, I've already got my hand on my pepper spray because I know these people are dangerous. And sure enough, a fight breaks out. I end up pepper spraying one of these goons. And he like swats my hand away, and I retreat real quick. And I see another guy kick somebody in the head, and I go and I attempt to pepper spray him. And basically, to make a long story short, all hell breaks loose. Okay. And the next day, we have the main event, Unite the Right, August 12th. And I get pepper sprayed on my way into the park before anything happens. An unlawful assembly is declared. We're all ordered to leave the park. And and I was pepper sprayed the night of August 11th as well, by the way. So I'm pepper sprayed twice in 2 days. I'm back at my hotel room, and somebody informs me that Emily Gorsenski is on her stream saying that there's a warrant out for my arrest. Now, by the way, I never heard of Emily Gorsenski before any of this. And so I'm trying to, figure this out. And I go to, tell my side of the story in a Facebook video, which ends up going viral. This is how everybody calls me the crying Nazi, is because I get emotional when I've been pepper sprayed twice in 2 days and I'm told I'm wanted for a felony for being a crime victim. And what it ends up being is that, I think that I'm being prosecuted for defending myself against this guy. And that's not it at all. It turns out that Emily Gorsenski, who was a good 20 feet away when I pepper sprayed this asshole, accuses me of pepper spraying him, whatever. And so I don't know this yet. This happens later on when I turn myself in. And so I eventually hire an attorney. I turn myself in. I end up, spending 107 days in jail waiting for the preliminary hearing. And maybe you guys can pick this apart, because I'm probably rambling at this point.
No, I mean, it's a fascinating story. I didn't know at all about these cases. It's not the first time I see leftists use false allegations in court to cause problem to white nationalists.
May I ask a question?
So your strategy right now with the trial would be simply that you were defending yourself.
Well, my strategy is twofold. For one, the people who are accusing me are not the people I pepper sprayed, right? The people who are accusing me are people who had nothing to do with the altercation. What happened was, the night that this happened, Indy Star published a photo of me pepper spraying the one guy, all right? And these liars took that photo, went down to the magistrate, and said, Cantwell pepper sprayed me too, okay? Now, luckily for me, that photo was not the only imagery from that night. There was a whole bunch of people who were recording and live streaming. And so there's video of this entire thing. You can track my movements from the moment that this fight breaks out until the moment that I get pepper sprayed and taken out of the fight. And at no point do I pepper spray Emily Gorsenski or Christopher Goad, my two accusers. They're lying. The video proves it. And that's why, that's why 2 of the 3 charges got dropped, and why they have absolutely no hope of convicting me on the remaining.
Yeah, we have Amu $10 US says Cantwell did nothing wrong. I fart in your general direction, you fence-sitting moderates. And Samuel $5 US says an anarcho-capitalist trusting the agents of the state cops doesn't seem too trustworthy to me. Go ahead, Andy.
God damn it, JF! I'm gonna piss on you. I'm just joking.
Super chats are important, Andy.
Yeah, no, I know. I want to ask a question though. You're being, I guess, charged for releasing tear gas, right?
Yeah.
But you admitted right now you released it.
Yeah, I released tear gas in self-defense. So my defense is twofold, right? So the people who are accused, but it's like just releasing tear gas is not illegal. You have to injure somebody, okay? And so, I pepper sprayed a guy. That happened, but nobody knows who that guy is. He's not my complainant, all right? That guy is a violent criminal who was involved in a gang assault right in front of me, and he got pepper sprayed because he was being violent, all right? And he doesn't want to show up because if there's any justice, he's going to get charged, right? The people who are accusing me, I did not pepper spray. They lied and said they just took this picture of me pepper spraying somebody else and said he pepper sprayed me too, right? It's not like I can spray pepper spray outside, and that's perfectly legal. I have to injure somebody, and that person has to complain. So the person that I pepper sprayed, he's nowhere to be found. This Jew and this tranny go and say he pepper sprayed me based on this photograph that they saw that I posted to my own Facebook profile because I knew that what I did was perfectly legal. They just go and they say, based on this photo, he pepper sprayed me too, which was a lie, which the video proves.
I see. And then you spoke to the FBI, and then this is why people think you're an informant.
I spoke to the FBI to report crimes that leftists had committed. Okay, and I can't. There's a limit to how much I can tell you about what happened because I don't want these people to get away, right? But I went and I reported information about the left and exculpatory information about the alt-right. Like I gave them the body camera video from the Walmart parking lot, and I showed rather definitively that these people called in a false police report. That was the first crime that was committed at Unite the Right. And that was the pretext for all the violence later on. The post on itsgoingdown.org that said that there was a post on itsgoingdown.org that said Christopher Cantwell was in the Walmart parking lot threatening customers with a gun. These people are terrorists. We have to stop them. That was the pretext for all the violence of Unite the Right. And so I went and I showed the FBI, I didn't pull a gun on anybody. These people are lying. And everything that they did afterwards was based on that lie.
I see. So, yeah, you went to them because you're being charged and you want to give the actual evidence as you see it to the FBI.
I want to give an objective record of the events, which is video, right? So it's like, I can go and I can tell the FBI anything, but, while I'm facing 40 years in prison, I'm not the most credible person they've ever talked to, right? But when I show them video evidence that shows that these people are lying, you look at the video, you look at the transcript of the 911 calls, it's a blatant falsehood. And so that's what I went to the FBI to do, and also to talk about the guy who pepper sprayed me on August 12th.
Why are people's inclination to immediately say, okay, you went to the FBI, now you must be an informant? Like, why do you think? Is that just people trying to slander you?
It's because Weev is a liar. That's why.
Weev?
Yes.
So he's okay. I see. I've heard of Weev around the internets the past week, actually. So
he came up in another story, right?
Yeah, he was the one who basically set up was the scapegoat for the doxing allegation, which he knew of the setup, I guess, but not what actually happened, because I was doxed this week. My family was doxed. And he was part of that story, but apparently now he wasn't part of it, like in the full picture. But he did talk about it on Backyard Blood Sports. So I don't know like a lot about Weev at all. So he's basically trying to frame you, I suppose.
What happened was I called Weev a Jew on my website, and Weev took the conversation that I previously had with him, telling him that I was going to report Antifa crimes to the FBI, and he took that to the TRS 50 forum and said Cantwell's a Fed.
Okay, so he's just pissed off at you, and now he's just trying to slander you. And
that's exactly what it is. He's also calling me a homosexual and all manner of other shit, which, Weev's not exactly fucking privy to the details of my sex life. So, he's just going around and saying every terrible thing that he can come up with about me. I mean, there's been, and I've been trying not to pursue a, movement infighting lately, because I think the Syria thing was a thing for us to come together around, but, not everybody wants to hear that, so fuck it. He basically just went to fucking war with me, and he's not, anybody who's like, anybody who listens to the radical agenda looks at the things that he's saying and is like, this guy's fucking crazy, right? But if you have no idea who I am and you follow Weev, then you're just like, okay, Cantwell's a Fed and a fag and like all this shit. It's just bullshit.
Jared Tim, $5 US says Cantwell should file a lawsuit. I would not anticipate his response to this, but I will say it's often very costly and very often not useful to file lawsuits.
Well, I will tell you, I've already filed a lawsuit. So, as soon as the 2 of the 3 charges were dropped, I filed a lawsuit against my accusers. And as soon as these other charges are beaten, there's going to be other ones. There's a lot of litigation going on. This is a mess.
Someone donated Tavin 15 pounds. If you're gonna make low IQ interjections, Andy, raise your hand and beg Papa JF to indulge your pea-sized intellect. How about if you're gonna throw some super chats? How about you try and make some high IQ interventions? I dare you, Tavin. Prove me. One,
Common Sense Jew Control, $10 US says, I'll Cantwell gassing. Oh, well, I will not read this. He did nothing wrong. Shout out to Dave. He will find a woman with a big... Okay. I hope Cantwell sues those waste of human skin and gets a Dodge Challenger. Are you a Dodge Challenger fan?
You know, ever since August, you know, I've been keen to get one, or like 8. You know, I think the Dodge Challenger is a miracle of a vehicle now.
And would you ever speak to Weev?
Would I ever speak
Like
to Weev?
debate, battle him, talk to him?
You know, the thing is, like, I don't think that there would be a whole lot of point in a debate, but you know, I wouldn't be against the thing, because we're not arguing about fucking facts. The guy's just lying about me blatantly. It's obnoxious.
Were you lying about him being a Jew?
I don't believe I am. There's an OkCupid profile where he says he's a Jew. There's a Goatsy security profile where article where he says that he's a Jew. He told Gawker that he has Jewish ancestry. His mother says that he has Jewish ancestry on both sides. I have other information about that. I had a long interview with Hunter Wallace on the Radical Agenda with a bunch of information that he exposed. And I believe that Weev has at least some Jewish ancestry and that he's lying about it.
Sounds Jewish enough to me.
Yeah. And I mean, you fucking look at the guy.
Now, from a strategic perspective, when you look back at the Unite the Right rally, because I've heard some people say it was a good idea, some people say it was a bad idea, ultimately for the image of the movement. Do you think it was a good idea strategically for the alt-right?
Let me put it this way. If I had known what Charlottesville was, I wouldn't have chosen that location, okay? Like, I don't go anywhere. You know, they've had all these different rallies in Boston and Berkeley and stuff. I don't go nowhere that I can't carry a gun, because I know that these people are goddamn dangerous. So I make sure that I understand the self-defense laws when I go places, and I prefer to go places where I can be armed, because in my experience, guns prevent violence. I did not know. You know, when I come down to Virginia, it's an open carry state, and my pistol permit is reciprocated. So I've got it in my head that I'm going to a reasonably conservative place. It turns out that Charlottesville is Red Army territory, and the government is completely corrupt and just doesn't give a shit, right? So knowing that, you know, I don't think that Charlottesville is the place to have this thing. That said, you know, we have a choice to make about whether this thing was a success or a failure. And the people who are choosing to make it a failure are throwing a lot of people under the bus, and I think that they're doing so in not, and I don't think they're doing it in good faith, frankly. All right, saying that Unite the Right was a failure is high time preference behavior. The fact of the matter is, none of this stuff is over with yet. We haven't had almost any trials. The trials that we've had have been successful, by the way. I mean, Jason Kessler beat his case. Ian Hoffman beat his case. We've got civil litigation going on. Like, the thing is not over yet. So anybody who says it's a failure is throwing in the towel before it was done. You know, there's still a lot going on. But the thing is that people are understandably scared. And so, you know, all right, you're afraid. All right, well, I feel you. I'm facing 40 years in prison, fella, but welcome to the goddamn race war.
Oh, so you're saying there is a race war?
Is there any other way to describe what's happening in America right now?
So what's your goal? Like, what's your vision that you'd be happy with?
What I ultimately think that we should be going for is a political migration and secession for a white ethno-state.
Do you think the white ethno-state is just a pipe dream, or you think it's possible?
I think it's absolutely possible. Yeah. And frankly, I don't think there's going to be white people left if we don't get it. You know, if we don't have an ethno state, then there's not going to be white people around. You know, if the purpose of the state is basically the maintenance of the race. And if the state just forgets about that and opens up its borders and just puts a bunch of people together, you put boys and girls in a room together, and shockingly enough, they start having sex. And when everybody's just race mixing, eventually you don't, you know, you see these fucking things about, this is what people are going to look like 40 years from now, and it's beautiful, and all of them are brown. There's no such thing as blonde hair or blue eyes anymore, right? So I think it's not only possible, but necessary.
How is something like Unite the Right, how is that going to like start the process to having a white ethno state? Like, what's the first step, you would think?
Well, the first step is awareness, and you know, Unite the Right, whatever its flaws, certainly drew a lot of attention to what was going on, right?
I see. I see. And by the way, I want to thank James, who threw $20. No comment, but $20. Monster Chief threw $5 to say Weev is Jewish. His subversive optics morons will get what's coming to them. Also ask about BA not helping Cantwell and others at UTR. What's that about?
Well, what was the question?
About
he asked about Baked Alaska not helping you and others at UTR.
Well, I don't know about others. I know that my lawyer attempted to contact Baked Alaska dozens of times leading up to my preliminary hearing because we wanted him as a witness, and he didn't answer any of those calls. And then when I got out of jail, then he wanted to have me on his show, and he apologized for it and said, yeah, sorry, man, nothing personal. I was looking out for my own mental health.
Wait,
oh, wow.
Wait, was he a witness though? He was there, like near
No,
you?
he wasn't there. He didn't. We couldn't get in touch with him. We wanted to have him as a witness, but he was unreachable.
No, I mean at Unite the Right.
He was at Unite the Right. Yeah, that's why we wanted him as a witness.
And he witnessed what happened with you and that whole situation.
Yeah, he was there Friday night. You know, he got a whiff of a pepper spray. I mean, he was there filming. Like, part of the evidence in my case is the Baked Alaska live stream.
Oh, interesting. So he didn't want to help you, and then he wanted you on his show.
Yeah.
Oh, JF, any thoughts? Anything you want to say about that?
Well, I like that it confirms some of my recent worries about his mental health. He was also worried about his own mental health. I've made comments on this on the last show. So, Chris, Tuesday we have a debate here where I participate, and I'm against Alze, and I'm with Frame Games Radio, and we'll be debating the question of the Jewish question as part of white nationalism. Is it an important question or not? And I'm on the side who will have to argue that it is an important question. Would you be on that side too?
I don't know how you can discuss white nationalism without discussing the Jewish question. I mean, you know, the Jewish influence is the entire reason that we have the problems that white nationalism seeks to address.
So can you give examples? Because Jewish influence is almost unquestionable in terms of mediatic presence, political presence. And you were mentioning earlier, I find this interesting because it's not been mentioned often, but there is a heterogeneous application of the law in America, and there's not much statistics available for this. But if you go on a town with leftists, you will have very different judicial systems, and the police is different, the district attorney is different, and it does lead to lots of heterogeneity within America. But do you think that the Jewish question must be considered in terms of simply rejecting them from the white ethno-state? Or do you think that there would be place in a white ethno-state for Jewish people?
I don't see any place for Jewish people in the white ethno-state. In my opinion, the whole entire point of the ethno-state is to get Jews out. So the idea that you would have them in there would seem self-defeating.